I'm Alex Kollar, founder of Saint Security Group, staff member of CSI Linux, and the creator of Navi. So what is Navi? Navi is an open source AI interface purpose-built for cybersecurity professionals. Navi streamlines complex tasks with AI-driven automation and summarization so users can focus on security without getting lost in technical details. Today, I'll show you how to use Navi and some of its features. So if you want to help shape the future of cybersecurity AI, this talk is for you. Let me fix my terminal real quick. There we go. Give us a little extra space. So, as we can see, we have Navi running on CSI Linux. So what can it do? Let's take a look at commands. Let's see if Navi can run an Nmap scan for us. Can you Nmap scan ports 80, 22, and 443 on example.com? As we can see, Navi is running. So, the scan is now done, and we have two options. We can either see the raw Nmap output, or we can ask Navi to analyze the raw output and give her own feedback on it. Let's ask Navi to analyze this. So what this is going to do is feed the output to the LLM and get a proper summary back in human readable format. So let's let Navi do her thing. So as we can see at the very bottom, we have a more traditional Nmap output. What Navi allowed us to do was analyze the output and give us more details, things that we would have to inference on our own otherwise. So, that's amazing. Let's take a look at this real quick. I'd be happy to help you analyze and summarize the results of this Nmap scan. Summary: Nmap has scanned a single host, example.com, which is up and responsive with minimal latency. The scan was able to identify several open ports on this host. Port 80 TCP, HTTP is open. 443 TCP, HTTPS is open. Unfortunately, the scan also identified one filtered port. Port 22 TCP SSH is filtered, meaning it's closed or blocked by a firewall. Key findings: web server availability. The host has an open HTTP and HTTPS port, indicating that a web server is running on this machine. Potential security risk: the fact that SSH, port 22, is filtered may indicate that remote access to the system is not allowed or is blocked by a firewall. Minimal latency. The scan reported minimal latency, which suggests that the host is relatively close or has low network congestion. Recommendations. Based on this analysis, I would recommend further investigation of the web server running on ports 80 and 443 to determine its version, configuration, and any potential vulnerabilities. Additionally, if remote access via SSH is required, it may be necessary to reconfigure the firewall rules to allow incoming connections on port 22. Navi then asks if she can assist us further, and then proceeds to give us the standard Nmap output. So if you're new to the cybersecurity industry, which would you rather have? The standard Nmap output or AI-assisted analysis of Nmap outputs? I think I'll take the AI-assisted. So this being said, the Nmap script is actually what we call a chip. So a chip is a software extension to the Navi interface that allows us to customize and add more capabilities than what is traditionally allowed within the LLM. So let's take a look at what chips are currently installed. Chips list will bring up the list of currently installed chips. So we have Navi Nmap and Navi Cryptex. So let's drill into Navi Nmap real quick. So chips Navi Nmap will actually bring up a little blurb regarding the Navi Nmap chip. So we see we have the latest version installed, the name, the description, a clickable URL, as well as the owner, your version, the latest version. If there's an update to this chip, this text will actually change to there's an update available. Updating chips is really easy. All you have to do is type in chips update chip name. As well, I had mentioned that the URLs are clickable, which means you can actually go to the user's repo and the chip itself and see more information about the chip. So let's take a look at what chips are overall available for Navi. Chips search. This will come up with a list of presently available chips across all of GitHub. So you may be asking, alright, I built a chip. How do I put it on the list? That's really easy. All you have to do is start a GitHub repository, set the tag to Navi-chip, all lowercase, and create a release package for the chip. As of that point, Navi will actually be able to bring it up within the search list. So we noticed earlier that Cryptex is actually already installed. So for sake of argument, let's actually go through uninstalling and reinstalling a chip. So one thing we can do to see what commands are available for the chip system is just type chips. So as we saw earlier, chips list will bring up chips list. Once again, we have Nmap and we have Cryptex. Let's uninstall Cryptex. So chips uninstall Navi Cryptex. Don't worry, there's a reason for this. Now once again, we go into chips list. We only have Navi Nmap, so let's chips search Cryptex. We see Navi Cryptex is available. You'll notice that I did a specific query for a very specific chip this time, as opposed to just the general search. So there are multiple ways that you can search for chips. So let's install Cryptex again. Chips install Navi Cryptex. Navi will go through the process of installing. And now we are once again at the Navi banner. So chips list will bring up. Navi Cryptex is once again here. Let's take a look at Cryptex. To get to Cryptex, all we have to do is type in Cryptex. As we can see, Navi gives us a little bit more help at the very bottom. Cryptex cipher shortcode. So we have all these ciphers in the list, as well as their shortcode off to the side. Let's take a look at hex. Cryptex hex. Oh. I made a boo-boo. Well, this is a good time to show off one of the other features. We have the ability to command scroll within Navi. So you can actually type the up and down arrows to get back to previously done commands. and we can also move left to right to edit them as needed. So let's fix this typo and pretend that never happened. No arguments parsed, but here's the help for the requested cipher. And as we can see, we have multiple things that we can do with an individual cipher. So let's just go with the example. Cryptex hex, spelled properly this time, encode, and text. So, hello world. Bam! Navi then encodes it for us. So let's quickly copy this, and just to full Monty it, let's go back and decode this. So, tac D, we will delete hello world, and we'll punch in the ciphertext. Done. Hello world. Let's clear the screen real quick. So one of the other things that we can do to see what is installed on Navi is type nhelp, as indicated at the top. This will bring up a more informative version of, well, it's a help file. It'll bring up more information. So we see here that we have Nmap installed, we have Cryptex installed, we have the chip system installed. That's actually really useful. It also comes up with the various aliases for things. So for instance, if you build a chip that has an alias variable, it will show up here, as well as the description of said chip, as well as the command behind said chip. That's cool. So one of the things I also want to show off is actually a newer feature. Let's exit terminal real quick, or not exit the terminal, but exit Navi. Thanks for stopping by, CSI. And let's clear the terminal real quick. So one of the things that we just added to Navi is the ability to query Navi directly from the command line using the background LLM, which is, as of this point, Llama 3.2, running remote on a server that I have at home. So let's generate an example real quick. So let's do a typo on Python. Pytho3 hello.py. So obviously this is going to say Pytho3 command not found. So let's see if Navi can help us, and copy this real quick. Navi tac q. I ran into this issue while trying to run a Python script. Paste that in. And end quote. Let's see what Navi can gather from this. Just like that, we have access to Navi's underlying LLM directly in the terminal without actually entering the Navi CLI interface. So, let's take a further look at the LLM itself. So, Navi Edge. Hello there.
I was about to say good morning.
So as we can see, Navi actually gave us a very basic output for hello there. That's interesting enough. So let's dig deeper. What type of information does Navi currently have? As of this point, we can ask for things like telling us about cryptography, for instance, since we were just using Cryptex. Let's see what she has to say. Explain cryptography for me. And what this will do is send the request to the server in the background and give us back a proper response. So while we're doing this, let's talk for a minute about the future of Navi and where we see things going. I'm a very staunch believer in transparency within open source software. And something that we see commonly within the cybersecurity industry is a bunch of AI tools popping up, but none of them really are open. You can't get to the data, you can't get to the stuff that comprises the LLM itself. So the future of Navi is going to be a custom built 1 to 3 billion parameter local first AI model that is going to be running RAG as well. So what this means is, with it being local, we will have better security, more transparency. It should run smoother on most consumer grade hardware because it's only going to be 1 to 3 billion parameters. And the RAG system that we are intending to have in place will work similar to the way chips work. So users will be able to pick and choose what data they want to have. So for instance, let's take CSI Linux. CSI Linux deals heavy in digital forensics. So what this means is we can actually curate a custom RAG set for digital forensics that'll be comprised of various data points for that specific discipline of cybersecurity. So one of the other things that I'm hoping to do is have a curated data set just for CSI Linux that will allow Navi to understand the system itself better. So this is what I mean by the future of cybersecurity AI. When I set out to create Navi, I wanted to create something that was useful to the entire field. Something that would become a resource for everybody. And I think to this point, we've done pretty good at that. So that being said, I want to start a new initiative. I'm sure you've seen this up here. I'm wondering why there's a random Chrome tab open throughout the course of my entire video. And that is to introduce the Navi training repo. What I want to do is offer users a chance to contribute data to the Navi project. That's where Navi's true strength lies. It's not with me. It's not with any one operating system. It's with the people who use it. It's with the community. Through the chip system and through the future Navi local model, we're primed to make some waves within the industry. So, if you're interested in helping the project, one thing that we need is reliable training data. Reliable training data, reliable training data that people can have access to, that is open to the public, that it's fully transparent. So over time, I want to build this repo out to be a resource for people within the cybersecurity community as well. Not just for Navi, but for other people who might be working on other AI projects. As well, till it's all over, I'm planning on having a full wiki within the repo here that will go over how we trained the model, how we basically all the details that go into everything that made Navi's training possible. So, with all of this being said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to CSI Con. I want to thank CSI Linux in particular for giving us a platform to grow on. And above all, I want to thank the users, the people who helped me beta test Navi, the people who gave us ideas, the people who contributed their time to the project. So thank you all, and I'll see you again soon. Hi there, Alex again. I had a couple of questions come up since I actually recorded the video, the main presentation. So let's get into them. Number one, what is the history of Navi, and what is the inspiration? So, contrary to popular belief, Navi actually pulls a lot of inspiration from the Mega Man series. Now, this might be a letdown to everybody who believed up to this point that it was Legend of Zelda, with the, hey, listen, no. So, there's an alternative Mega Man series called Mega Man Battle Network. And in this series, we see smartphone-like devices that are AI capable, much like what we have today with, the big two, at least, because, we don't talk about Bixby. So, Navi pulls a lot of inspiration from that series. In the series, we have these smartphone devices with AIs on them. These AIs are referred to as NetNavis. So, I spent a lot of time as a kid thinking it would be really cool to make one of these. Make it real. Now, back then, it was thought to be impossible. Never happened in our lifetimes. That's sci-fi. But nobody could have predicted where we would be today. With the abilities that we currently have, with the technology that we currently have, and the technology that is currently evolving. So Navi pulls its inspiration from a video game that I played as a teenager. Now what was cool about the NetNavis in the video games was, in a way, the whole series is almost a allegory for what we see in today's cybersecurity. It's a very cautionary tale of AIs and viruses. Now, obviously, it's blown up and out of proportion compared to what we see today, but the NetNavis had one specific priority aside of doing the traditional things that we get with today's cell phone AI. They were designed to basically do virus hunting. So, not only do you have an AI, but you also have built-in antivirus. And the main combat mechanic of the game was to actively combat the viruses. All the while, I'm sitting here playing these games, I'm thinking to myself, it would be so cool to make this real. So, that's where Navi's inspiration comes from, and a little bit of the background history. One of the other questions that was asked was, how do you install Navi? So, we have the install. It's presently already cloned onto this device, so let's jump in here. ls, we see there is an install directory, and you hit /install.sh. Now mind you, this process is the same across the board with all Debian-based Linux systems. We are in the future planning on giving this ability to more of a range of Linux systems, but for now we're sticking to Debian because Debian-based systems are what's most supported in the wild. So, this is how we do install. As of this point, Navi is cloned onto the device through git clone, and we're in the Navi install folder. So, install.sh, and it will run through the process of getting Navi installed. Let's expand the window. Bam, Navi is installed. So, to check what Navi version you have, if, say for instance, it's already installed on the device, you would simply type Navi, which will check the current version and grab whatever the current release is on the main branch. Now, for the sake of what we're doing here, we're going Navi Edge. So we're currently at version 0.6.5, as indicated up here. That's more or less how we check what version we have at the moment. So I'm going to hit exit, come out of here. How do you see if Navi is installed? Well, the easiest way would be to cd/opt/Navi. And if we have this folder on the system, it has been installed. So we can ls to double check everything's here. And there we go. So Navi is in fact installed. Ah, cool. So this version does include the Navi version file. So we can actually also check what Navi version is installed by going .navi version from within the opt/Navi directory. That's cool. So, another question that was asked was, how can Navi help during an investigation? So, in the world I see, Navi will, at a future point in time, have the ability to actually access the CSI cases folder as a form of RAG. So what this means is Navi will be able to reference whatever documents are in that folder, or even go as far as, say, referencing a very specific case within the cases folder. So Navi will have context of what those cases are, and you can ask Navi questions about the cases. So that's one way that I see Navi being useful to investigations, as well acting as a second set of eyes. So going back on that RAG concept, say you're doing an investigation about, let's say, bank fraud. We'll go with bank fraud. And you somehow gather up the access, or somehow gather up the files required to cross-reference the bank's customers as well as the account numbers for those customers. Through RAG, we are able to get Navi to, say for instance, we could query it to say, hey, look into this specific case. I want to know what transactions Joe Schmo initiated on, the second Tuesday of last week. So that's a hypothetical. The other hypothetical is okay, I want to see if Joe Schmo sent Billy Bob any type of money within the last 3 weeks. And Navi should be able to pull that data and correlate it so you can use it to quickly reference certain things within documents. So the general notion here is we're using AI to do a mixture between automation and rapid investigation. So in order for us as investigators to look into that type of activity, yeah, there's ways you can filter things down. You can get to it pretty easily. But otherwise, it would take, human eyes with proneness to not missight, but proneness to error. We'll say human error. It could take a little while. Lord knows there have been times where I'd look at code for 3.5 hours trying to figure out why isn't this doing the thing. And of course, roses are red, violets are blue. Expected semicolon on line 42. So there's that whole aspect. There's a few ways I can see Navi being of use to investigations. Those are just a couple that I wanted to bring up. So this brings us to where Navi is right now versus where it is in the future. Now these two topics are going to kind of bleed into each other. Navi right now runs on a centralized server that I currently have access to here at home. It's an on-prem server. It's been designed from the top down to handle artificial intelligence training, as well as, for the time being, serving artificial intelligence models. So whenever you talk to Navi, you're actually pinging the server here at home. It's cool, it's effective, it works. It actually works really well for the case of CSI's current virtual machine setups. However, in the future, we are putting a heavier emphasis on local AI. So, as of this point, Navi is running Llama 3.2 on the back end. And it's cool. It does the trick. It does what we want it to. However, we want to make ourselves unique. We want to branch into building our own custom AI model from the ground up. After much deliberation, we decided let's go with the local route. So in order to build a stable local AI model, it can't be more than 3 billion parameters. Now, it can if your local machine is a super beast. So for instance, I can easily run an 8 billion parameter model on my server because I have an AI card built for artificial intelligence work. But to do that on my laptop, it would chug. And it would chug hard. It wouldn't surprise me if after a while it got to the point where the computer started overheating because you're relying strictly on the processor in most consumer grade hardware. Now by consumer grade, I mean like laptops you can buy off the shelf. Things that don't have discrete graphics cards. So yeah, you can get away with using whatever the latest NVIDIA, GTX, RTX, whatever it is. You can get away with that, and it'll do the trick better than just a CPU. But for people who don't have gaming spec computers, we need to take that into consideration. Also, we need to consider the fact that CSI runs primarily on a virtual machine. So, in order to make Navi run as best as possible, we are focusing not on how big we can make it, but how small we can make it while also maintaining usability. Now, one of the things we're going to lean heavy on, as I explained in the actual talk, is the use of RAG. So, retrieval augmented generation. So what this means is Navi will be set up to look at specific folders. And in those folders, Navi will be able to reference the documents in them. So he made mention to this idea of a almost like the chip system that I demoed earlier, only for RAG, and the ability to download sets of data for RAG. So one of the things I want to make sure of is in the CSI version, that Navi has the ability to reference the cases file. That way, like I said previously in this talk, Navi has the ability to kind of have a... what's the best word I'm looking for here? Yeah, Navi can reference the cases. Navi can actually pull information from the cases and then interpret it in its own way. So in order to use RAG, we have to focus on local first AI. It's not easy to do on a server-based system. Can it be done? Yes, but it's not as secure, because then you're not just shooting a query to an outside source. You're shooting a document, or even a series of documents. So, local first, heavier security, the ability to have better control over what knowledge the AI model has to begin with, as well as more customized tweaks through RAG. So I feel like that's the future of where Navi's going. Now, as time goes on and as Navi gets more popular and we're able to build out more systems and this and that and the third, I do want to build bigger AI models with Navi. I want to build an 8B model, a 30B model. I want to see it grow. And a lot of that's going to come down to not just me, but the community at large. So, it's not so much a single person show here. Now, thankfully, I have one of the best developers I could possibly think of helping me out directly with the Navi project. V, here's your shout out. What's up? He has been a huge, monumental resource in helping push Navi's development so much further than I alone could have done. Just through his additions alone, we have the new Navi chip system, and it is phenomenal. It is so much better than I could have imagined on my own with the amount of time that I've had. Because the original chip system, it was very PR based, like, oh, here's a repo, upload your single Python script to this repo. No, the new chip system allows you to create full projects, full applications for Navi. It's not just single scripts anymore. It is, you think it, you can build it. And that is phenomenal. So by the time this talk comes out on the conference, I will have the Navi wiki updated to reflect all the new knowledge and all the new aspects of the chip system, as well as all the new aspects of Navi itself. So, that's great. Anybody who's looking for that information, it's on the Navi GitHub under the Wiki tab. As well, if you run into issues, feel free to pop an issue. We'll look at it as soon as possible. As well, there's a discussion board, and you can also find us on Discord in the CSI Linux Discord. So everybody, once again, thank you for retuning in, and I'll see you soon.